A lot of this is coming out of the context of what was going on at the time in Jesus' country. For instance, when he talks about going 1 mile and going 2 miles, that meant that when the Roman soldier got a hold of you and made you carry his bag for a mile, go the 2nd mile. It was, a lot of this had to do with occupational forces. He was teaching in the context of the time, but it was handed on to us by the inspiration of the Spirit, and so it must have meaning for us. Although I hope we never get to the day when we have soldiers who force us to carry their bags. We have to change the context in order to listen to the teachings of Jesus. The line that I found the most difficult, of course, was the last one. Be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. And that's a good example where the way the Greek that the gospel was written in, we don't have it in any other form. We don't have it in the language of Jesus. We only have it in the Greek. And when you translate things from one language to another, there are always problems. And when you translate something, you want to take the meaning, not the words, because words change their meaning. For instance, for us, the word perfect means without imperfection, without a fault, absolutely, totally perfect, which only God is. And you say, well, how can I be like that? How can I be perfect like God is perfect? Well, of course, we can't be. It's impossible. Our very nature is not God. The word that's used there in the Greek really means, in the original context, true, mature, fully developed. And so Jesus is saying, be true, grow up, be fully mature. And what's he talking about? He's talking about what Paul was talking about in the second reading, that we have been adopted through Jesus Christ as the children of God. In other words, we have been made more by God than we are by nature. We have a future which is different than what our nature appears to lead us to. Our nature appears to lead us to the boot hill, the grave. But Jesus is saying, no, there's more than that. That's the appearance. That's not the end. And so when he calls us to be perfect, he's really calling us to be mature. And it's interesting that the same phrase is used, almost the same phrase, in the Old Testament reading from Leviticus. You shall be holy. But notice there it's in the future tense. You shall be holy when you act like God. You shall be like God when you act like God. And I think that's the meaning of this here. I really do. I think Jesus is saying, you will be perfect if you start acting like your Father. And of course, how does God act? Does he want us to create worlds? Does he want us to control nature? No. He wants us to be like his Father in relationship to us. He wants us to be like his Father as we relate to each other. First of all, the Father is merciful. He overlooks failings. And that's what all these examples that preceded that call to holiness was. Call to perfection, to maturity, is to start acting among yourselves the way my Father acts with you. That's being like God. It's not being God, but it's being like God, which is exactly what the call of life is all about. And for Christians, it's explicit. We have been even adopted as the children of God, and therefore we need to be like our parent. Well, I can't do that. Well, no, you can't. Neither can I. But gradually, as we mature, if we permit the power of God to be active in us, if we don't stifle it, we can mature into the likeness of God. When Jesus says, love your neighbors and everyone, even those who persecute you, remember that love doesn't mean affection, feelings, emotions. Love is a do word. Your actions must be loving, and that's all God asks of us. He doesn't care how we feel about each other. He cares about how we act towards each other. The bottom line is activity. Love isn't here. Love is in the fingertips, the way we handle each other in life, and that's all that God asks of us, that we handle each other lovingly, with mercy and kindness, the same way He handles us.